Hi, I'm going to show you how to tie a Midge emerger, a blue wing olive emerger on a size 28 hook. I'm sure there's many different ways to do it, but this is how I'm doing it because it looks pretty sexy and it makes kind of a indicator on top of the small fly. So this device here is a device that I made called affectionately by my other fly fishing friends called the postulator. It helps me create this post. And what I did is I just made this out of some laminated cardboard butt strips used in construction for padding out drywall. And I just kind of glued them together with super glue and put in these drinking straws or stirring straws from the pub. And I got a red one here, a red one here, and a black one here. And the red one here, this is a bobbin threader that I made from some stainless steel wire, a split ring key ring, and some shrink tube to tighten it up here. So what I do is I start off by feeding the threader through here. And it goes down here. I spread this apart. And then I put in the post material that I'm using. In this case, I'm using Enrique Pugliese, however you pronounce that, trigger point stuff here, EP fibers. And I've got a little wisp of orange in there to give it some contrast to see a little better. So I slip that through there and I pull this through, and that brings it out the other end like that. Okay, and then I put the threader back through this hole here. Oops, come on, poke through there. Don't do this now. There we go. And I put on the end of that some little plastic sleeves that I cut up from the same tube material as that. And what I end up with is this little tiny firecracker looking thing that's got a string on the end of it that I used to tie onto the hook. So let's stop that there so you can see it. So that's what it ended up looking like. And to get that, what I do is I feed this onto here like that. And I open this up a little bit like that. There we go. And then I take a piece of thread, and in this case I'm using a type of thread called GX2, which is really strong material. I use this to tie streamers, and it's really strong. You can't even break it, but it lays flat, and it's just, you could probably use just regular floss tying thread, but you need something that lays flat. And what I do is I make a loop around here, around my red post, to capture that in there. And then I feed this through there, through that loop, and then slide the red sleeve up through there, and then pull it through. And then I've got it looks like that at that point, okay? And then I slide this up onto the EP fibers to about where I want it, and then I pull the EP fibers through the sleeve until it's just sticking out the end like that. And then I pull the fiber up like that, and then I snip off where I want it. And then I've got this post here that looks like that. And then I stick it in this little vise here with the thread ends sticking up. And I kind of pull the ends even a little bit so that they're even. And then I take super glue, and I use the flow type rather as opposed to the gel type, and I use the gel type somewhere else, and I'll show you that in a minute. But then I take the super glue and I put just a little bit on there. I don't put a whole lot on there, but that's just to capture that thread and to kind of put a little bit of super glue on the end of this little firecracker. And then I'll take the GX2 and I'll tie a square knot in it. And remember from Scouts, right over left, pull it tight, and left over right, and pull it tight. And I let that go bang. Okay? So now coming back to this apparatus, and I'll do 20 of these or so at a time so I get a bunch. And then I move that away, and then I chuck in my hook, and in this case I'm using, oh, where'd that go? Doggone it. And in this case I'm using a Gamakatsu size 28 C12 hook, and the reason why I'm using that is because the Gamakatsu C12 has an enlarged eye in it, and so I don't know about you, but I'm getting old, fat, and incontinent, and it's hard for me to see these little tiny hooks. And so this hook allows me to thread it a lot easier, thread my fly line into it, my tippet. And I use these little gazintas, and there's a name for these things, these little green colored things, and it has something to do with electronics. I don't remember what that is, but I use that to hold on to these because you just cannot manipulate these very well. And so I put this in my vise, tighten it up, and then it's in there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if I got something here. Can you see that hook? It's tiny. It's tiny. And when I buy these hooks, I buy them 100 at a time because you're going to lose some of these sumbitches. They are tiny. So then, after I get it on there, I take my thread, and you can use black or green or whatever color you want, and I put a thread base down. And not much, break it off, send it down there, and then I hold my thread, my bobbin, down to the side like that. And then I take my little firecracker, I spread it apart like that, and then I'll take the super glue gel as opposed to the fast flow stuff, because I want the gel to kind of create a little gob on top of this thing. And I'll put just a little tiny drop, and I'm talking just a little tiny drop, just enough to cover the top of the hook, and also at the same time being careful not to get it in the eye of the hook. Okay, don't need much. And then I take the little firecracker, I spread the strings apart. Let me see if I can zoom in here with this. Nope, won't let me. You put that on top, and then you use the thread string to position it and kind of lock it in place and wind it down. And I'll do a couple of wraps on this thing. I don't want to get a whole lot of buildup with the body. And then I pin this out of the way for right now, for right there. And then I take this bobbin and then I tie it all in and make thread wraps. You know, I suppose you could use dubbing, but with this small a fly, man, you're really making some small dubbing noodles, and I don't think you need them. And I'll bring this up and I'll just kind of tie it in do some cross wraps and a couple of wraps around the post. And you don't need much. And then I'll go back to my gel here and put just a little bit on the thread. Go around the body a couple times to create a head, and then I'll take my whip finisher go around a couple times. Call it good. And then you can take your little cover off, and I save them and I reuse them. And then I'll take, oh, I forgot to cut this off, sorry. And then I cut that GX2 off that I left on there, and it creates a tail. Can you see that? Can you see that? Little tiny guy. I've got a little color there for an accent color just to give it some contrast so you can see it on the water. So that's my technique for tying little tiny flies. And I've got some 30s that I tie, and this technique's good. And that's a bomb-proof post. And I wish you could get in there to see it, but I can't focus it very well. Where are you at here? There we go. Try that. That's the best I can do. Okay, that's it. Thanks.